Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hey everyone, Carrie here, and with Gencon having wrapped up, I want to talk about the news that came out from catalystgamelabs and Ironwind Metals. As usual, I wasn't able to make it to the con, given that I have 3 I go to each year: Southern Assault, Strategicon or Con, and RavenCon. Well, Southern Assault is a full con this year, and I think it'll be incredible. I just don't have the time or resources to make it out to Gen Con, though I hope to do so at some point. Before I go talking about what I've learned from the convention and condense it down here for you in one place, remember to like and subscribe. And if you can, support the channel by either becoming a channel member or joining our Patreon, where you can get early access to videos. Also, consider visiting our sponsor, FortressMiniaturesandGames.com, for all your BattleTech needs. Now, let's get into it. catalystgamelabs and Ironwind Metals have some new products there at Gen Con and some insights into future products in the pipeline. Sorry. The first thing I want to talk about is what CGL had on hand for the convention, and we should hopefully see it on store shelves pretty soon. First of these, and the one which has stirred up the most debate, is BattleTech Gothic. For this, there were 3 products. They, of course, had the BattleTech Gothic box, which we have talked about a little bit on the channel. For Gothic, they also had salvage boxes. These salvage boxes include one of the mechs in the box set, and have a small twist on one of them. Previously, if you got a multi-part salvage box, you would get all the bits. In these, though, the Atlas comes with the parts to make one of the 5 faction Atlas mechs, meaning that there are technically 12 possible salvage boxes for Gothic because of how the Atlas is being handled. And speaking of the Atlas, the third product they had for Gothic is a C-scale Atlas, which is the same scale as the big Mad Cat from the Kickstarter. This miniature, or model I guess, does come with all the parts you need to make all the house variants of the mech. I know that they are sort of putting this out there as a way to give us some sort of museum scale miniatures, or 15mm scale if you want some interesting Weird War II stuff in plastic. To be fair though, I sort of wish this were a normal Atlas, as the Atlas and Mad Cat are both pretty iconic to BattleTech. And I would like to see a limited range of 15mm scale mechs out there. The next product they had at Gen Con was the Centennial Edition of Technical Readout 3025. This release of the TRO has all new art for the units in the original release from the 80s. Well, all new, sort of. I mean, they're using some of the stuff they've already put out in the recognition guides. And I think this is an excellent celebration of where the game first came from, without some wonky blacked out mech silhouettes and refurbished 2750 machines to fill in the gaps that are left. We then get some new BattleTech dice. These are sort of thematic but don't quite hit for me. They include ammunition dice, energy crystal dice, and missile dice. Now, the ammunition and energy crystal dice are pretty standard for stuff we have out in the gaming industry that we've seen in the past, with the BattleTech logo on one end and dice pips on a hexagonal cylinder. I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but I'm not looking it up right now. The missile dice, though, well, they're missiles with little fins and are shaped kind of weird. I don't know if I care for them, and honestly, I think they're going to roll like shit, or have fins bend or break off. All 3 sets are kind of nice though, and I do like the fact that the dice sets all come in 3 pairs of 2 dice using some kind of different color on like some part of them somewhere. The energy crystal dice are completely different color, and I want to say the ends of the missiles and the ammo dice are a different color. This is something that, quite frankly, is something that's always been needed in BattleTech, that is pairs of 6-sided dice, whether you're playing Classic or Alpha Strike with multiple damage rolls. The last of the items that were on hand for Gen Con from CGL were 2 force packs. The first is the Emplacements force pack. I can't say I'm super enthused about this one. Much like the Objectives Force Pack, it isn't something I'm really looking forward to and feels extremely niche in BattleTech. I mean, it would be good for scenarios, but even then, you aren't going to run across them often. And there are already tons of alternatives out on the market for these. The other Force Pack is the third Star League Battle Group, and I'm very excited for this one. It includes an Excalibur, Malice, Peacekeeper, Wendigo, and Madcat Mark IV painted in Alric Ward's colors. It also includes a Savior repair vehicle. My first impression from pictures of the minis that I have found online are sort of meh for the Excalibur and Malice. The Peacekeeper has piqued my interest, even though certain people on Twitter have trouble telling it apart from a Blood Reaper. The Madcat Mark IV I'm interested in because I want to see how well it stands up to the Ironwind Metals release that we had based on the new art and renders. And I'm most excited for the Wendigo and the Savior. The Wendigo is one of my favorite mechs to make it out of the Dark Age and has some really amazing configurations, though I wish we had an Inner Sphere and clan name for it for reasons. And the Savior seems really cool because as far as BattleTech plastics go, this thing is an engineering marvel with multiple moving parts that are attached to each other, and you can essentially put the repair bay up with the little wings that fold out. So, I mean, they're sort of pushing the limits of that plastic as far as I can tell. As far as future CGL releases, we got word of the first Aces box set and the line of Aces boxes planned in the future. The first of these is the one we've known about for a bit, Scouring Sands, which is planned for a Black Friday release. The next will be called Snowblind and is based on the Dominion's Divided sourcebook. It'll include new minis for the Rime Otter, Viking 2C, and a new variant of the Grizzly. After that, we should be getting an Empire Alone Aces box called Wrath and Reprisals, and this one will focus on an Andorian Capellan conflict where you'll be fighting against Capellan guerrilla fighters. That should be interesting just on its face alone, and I'm really interested to see what kind of mechanics that they're going to come up with for that. The next one in line after that will be Controlled Burn. It is an ilclan Eyes Only base box, which will be focusing on a conflict between House Davian and Clan Snowraven, and should be taking place on what has been described as an alien world. We also got a look at some prototype minis for the House Karita Force packs as well, and the pre-production minis for this look really good, and I look forward to covering them. Especially that Roku Rokubi. I don't know why I really like that mech, but anyway. We also got some images of the Karita and 21st Centauri Lancers Force packs floating around online, and I definitely plan on talking about those in another video. Ironwind Metals had a new con exclusive mini, as well as several future releases on display at Gencon. They had a small article on their website featuring this, along with a small tease that they would have some other future products there on display, and they did not disappoint. I'm going to try to crop the images down to each unit or group of units so you can see them in better detail. First, there is the Marauder 2 jumping mech covering the 5A, B, and 6C. Y'all probably know by now that I'm not the biggest fan of jumping mech miniatures. To be fair though, the jumping Atlas I painted is traveling with them. I painted that thing back in 2013, and surprisingly the paint and mod work is holding up good. It did start a weird thing on one of the BattleTech Facebook groups, though, saying that Ironwind Metals was releasing a Jumping Atlas, while it's been around for at least 13 years now. Anyway, I'm glad to see it still making the rounds at the Ironwind booth. Looking at some of the pictures that came out of the dealer's room, I have been able to separate the Ironwind Metals minis into 3 groups or categories, aside from the Jumping Marauder 2. Those would be the ones coming out this summer after Gencon, those coming out this winter, and those who don't have an official release date yet. First, the ones that are planned to be out after Gencon. To start off, we have the Ion Sparrow Prime and Alpha. These should be coming together in one blister, and I'm looking forward to them, as it seems that Fox Patrol has gotten their hands on one of these machines after the events on Aliana, and there should be one added to the force in place of the Locust, so I'm obviously going to need one for that. The next one we have for the summer is a Crusader 7D. We saw this one for the first time in Rec Guide 17, and while I'm not a big Crusader fan, I'm sure it'll look awesome when it comes out. We also have 3 Marauder 2 minis, or, well, 3 in 1 blister it looks like. It'll be a ground-bound Marauder 2, 5A, B, or 6 and 6C. And from the look of the minis, it would seem that the mech has similar enough armaments where the only thing that needs to be different in the blister between the 3 of them is the dorsal cannon. When we get to winter of 2025, we have 2 releases. The first of these is the Stinger 3R and C. This is set to come out in 1 blister, and the only difference in the mechs in like their raw physical form that I saw is the C has an ER small and ER medium laser, where the original only has the medium in one of its arms. I get the feeling it'll just be the addition of a single arm that has both weapons mounted on it. The other one we'll be getting is the Blackhawk Prime and L variants. This is one I'm excited for, not because of the Prime, but the L. And what it says about other variant parts for this mech, as there are 11 configurations on the Blackhawk which would only require an arm swap, meaning Ironwind could release a plethora of arm sprues for the mech, which would make it one of the most flexible sculpts ever if they wanted to make it happen. As for why I'm not super excited about the Prime configuration, well, Blackhawks are pretty easy to come by, as it's in the Clan Invasion box as well as the Alpha Strike box, and is pretty common on the secondary market. I think a good one to have covered alongside the L would be one of the more unique variants of the mech. Maybe the J? I think that's the chemical laser toting variant, or the H, to replace the older sculpt of it in the Ironwind Metal stable. Finally, we get to future releases. These don't have a specific date for release, but are definitely something to look forward to. First, we have the weapon and arm sprues. There are 2 of these planned. One is for the Iron Sparrow to make the B variant, and the other is for the Inferno, also to make its B variant if I can read that card right. I think these are pretty cool, but I'm also not watching out for them. Like, I'm not as excited for them as I am for some of the other releases that we get a sneak peek at. Those would be the full minis, and from what they had on display, I'm very excited for the future. I want to talk about them in the order I think we will see them come out. First one I think we'll be getting is the Iron Cheetah Prime and B. These configurations are simple arm swaps, and from what I've seen of the Iron Cheetah L, the mech is sort of future-proofed, with some body panels actually being sculpted separately to allow for quite a few variants. The next one I think will be coming out is the Rifleman 8D. This is also because we have an existing Rifleman sculpt in production. While the 8D doesn't have the torso-mounted lasers of the sculpt that we already have, I do have a feeling we will either get some kind of block-off plates, or a new torso will be mastered and cast with the same dimensions as the old one, with a block-off plate over the medium laser ports. The last one I think we will see is the Longbow 10 and 12C. This one is going to require the most time and resources to get from model to mini, as there isn't anything that already exists for it in metal. And as such, they'll need to create all new molds for it from scratch, without the lessons learned from the Rifleman and Iron Cheetah in their respective production runs. So that pretty much covers everything that I heard about out of Gencon this year. I did paint some minis for Masters and Minions, but that's something I think I'll talk about in a different video. Overall, I'm really happy with what has come out of Gencon and look forward to having many of these minis and the Gothic box set in my hands in the future. And I'll be sure to bring you reviews of them when I get them. In the meantime, I'm glad to see Catalyst doing their best and bringing BattleTech into the future. Stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. This is Carrie, signing off. I want to thank all of our patrons, channel members, and our sponsor for supporting the channel. Our patrons, first we have Captain Sarah, then our lieutenants, Boy in a Box and Nathan. We then have our sergeants, BZ Archer, Faz, and Steven. Then our cadets, Dominic, NB Kaiju, Housemaster Poding, Jamie, and Scott. Then we have our wonderful channel member, Miss J. And finally, our sponsor and Mercenary Review and Bonding Commission liaison, Fortress Miniatures and Games.